Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Dr. Dilsora Fozilova, and in today's class, we are going to talk about families and religion. So the first question is, why do we study families and religion in sociology? So some of the reasons why we study families and religion is because they are some of the primary or most important social institutions that enduring systems that organize human behavior and belonging. In our first classes, we talked about social institutions and we defined them as social institutions or organized patterns of people. And we just explained how social institutions organize our lives. For example, family, it structures reproduction, it structures caregiving, socialization, emotional life, and how we pass our culture to our generations through socialization, for example. Religion, on the other hand, provides shared belief systems, moral codes, and rituals, traditions, and worldviews that help maintaining collective identity and social order. Together, they form part of society's moral architecture, if you will. So they shape our identity and meaning. So our identity means who we are in this world comes partly from who do we see ourselves through our families or through our religion. Families transmit language, norms, gender roles, and emotional habits. They are where we first learn to be social. First, we learn how to interact with people. First, we learn how to do things like when to go to bed and when to get up and how to dress ourselves, what kind of food we like to eat, or what kind of TV shows we watch, what kind of traditions we have. Those all just kind of transmitted through families, and then that shapes our who we are, right? Our identity. Religion gives us moral frameworks that stories and symbols help individuals to help individuals make a sense of purpose, sense of suffering, sense of community, sense of belonging. So it's very intertwined and very important. Sociologists study them because they are carriers of culture. They link the private and the public, emotion and ideology, body and belief. So they are very important parts of our social life. They also regulate power and inequality in society. We can see that families, my mouse is not working, families inherit large amounts of wealth to the next generation. So basically, the economic well-being of the family reproduces economically well families, while sometimes being poor also reproduces through generations. So as we talked in our other classes, that having a wealth, having a symbolic capital or social capital or economic capital, that provides us tools to become more powerful in society. Therefore, inequalities shape over time through these sorts of capital. Family systems may enforce patriarchal norms, inherence hierarchies, or kin-based privileges. Religious institutions can reinforce or challenge political authority, define moral boundaries, and or legitimize or resist social hierarchies. The sociologists examine not only the functions, but also the contradictions and conflicts, how they sustain both order and inequality in society. Also, these two institutions vary cross culturally and historically. The families were different before the Industrial Revolution. They were more traditional societies where families served as an economic unit, that families together became farmers or shoemakers or clothing makers, or somebody makes tools for agricultural needs, or families also became that lineage of religious authorities. So the family structures shift with industrialization. Also, they change through migration and globalization. In the industrial era, society is moved from the families moved from traditional societies towards this more nuclear family structure. They went to cities to find job because the family based economies were not sustainable anymore, that big manufacturing companies were creating or producing more goods that were more cheaper than the family based manufactured goods. So families had to move to cities. They had to break down in the smaller units and become nuclear families. Also, religion changed over time. Religious expressions also adapt to modernization, secularization, and political change. And when that separation between the state and the church became a thing, then the religion became less powerful because they had to pull themselves out of the political arena. They couldn't serve as a political entity anymore. But before that, certainly religion ruled society more than today. So in some societies, though, still religions claim authority, the political authority or legal authority. For example, Islam comes its own political and legal system, and in some cases you can see the opposition between the political state or secular state and religion, which is actually my area of research. Studying these variations help sociologists see how social change reshapes meaning systems and how people negotiate tradition and modernity. So we can also connect the macro to micro level analysis through this families and religion. Family and religion are perfect examples of sociology's central question of how do individuals experiences larger social forces. For example, a personal that marriage can seem like it's very personal. It's between a man and a woman, and it's their choice and shaped by that's personal choice, which is shaped by class, gender norms, and state laws or policies. You can connect that individual structure of or individual choice of marriage to larger, how can we see in society, how that is shaped by society, shaped by political or legal system. Also, private faith, that my belief is between me and my God, is influenced by institutions, media, political ideologies. So sociologists study this to reveal the hidden social patterns behind social choices. Also, why do we study family and religion together is they both are sites of moral and cultural tension. In modern societies, family and religion are under regulation or negotiation. Debates over, for example, same-sex marriages, gender equality, reproductive rights, and secularism show how much we debate on this thing, is how deeply these institutions structure moral life in society. Studying them reveals how societies balance freedom and order, tradition and change. How do we move from the historical or traditional way of viewing family and religion to, adapting new forms of life, new forms of families, new forms of faith, and how this faith how interacts with political realm. So there is a book by, what was her name? Saba Mahmood. She is a scholar from Pakistan, and actually she died with cancer. She has a book called Politics of Piety, and she explores mosque movement in Cairo, and she talks about how political decisions influence religion in society, and at the same time how people empower themselves. For example, she observes mosque movement by women in Cairo. She talks about how individuals can also empower themselves and change this understanding of what freedom or liberty means for women in different religions. Very powerful book. There are many thinkers of family and religion, some of which are Emily Durkheim, one of the classical thinkers on family and religion. He talks about religion creates social cohesion, that people are united together because of religion. Family integrates individuals into moral communities. Max Weber talks about that religion shapes economic ethics, like Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism, one of his books that talks about how Protestant ethics actually is reason why capitalism come to be, or how capitalism emerged in society. And also he talks about the family and religion define life conduct. And then there's a Karl Marx, and he talks about religion as an ideology that produces inequality in society, ideology supporting the status quo, families as site of power, property, and class reproduction. Karl Marx talks about in the families serving as factors behind inequalities between men and women. So he's that between these all three. Karl Marx is a little bit negative one towards family and religion. He calls religion as an opium of society because, some of the higher class, like bourgeoisie, used religion to numb people, saying that God created you this way, therefore you need to be faithful to your master and keep working, and then you will be rewarded in the next life. So you have to keep your head down and do what's required from you. Therefore, Karl Marx looks at it as like it's just a numbing effect. It is just preventing revolution. So people could stay as inferior and work very hard for their lives. And for Karl Marx, the labor, selling your labor, is basically partly becoming a slave, because when you go and work for 10 or 12 hours for somebody, you're not free at that time, yet what you make just enough for surviving. Therefore, you're giving all your life to survive. So he's pretty negative when it comes to families and religion. So contemporary society or contemporary sociology focuses more on gender, emotion, globalization, pluralism, for example, for both both social institutions, family and religion. In short, sociologists study family and religion because they are most powerful bridges between personal meaning in a social structure. They reveal humans make belonging, transmit values, and organize power, the essence of social life itself. So I have a presentation, the PowerPoint presentation. I'll share that with you, and we will go through our presentation together. Just give me 1 second. All right. So today's class is, I called it Exploration of Family Structures and Religious Dynamics. And I shared this photo with you to start thinking about family. This art is from the Library and Archives Canada, and there is credit is given to where that's coming from. This image is called the French Canadian Habitant family playing at cards, the family in decline. And in class lectures, I always ask my students to look at this picture very closely and think about why this picture is called family in decline. So it doesn't seem to me, with the standards of our time, this family is declining, because you can see that there is I'm guessing must be like grandma here, grandpa here, couple of their children, probably their wives, and they seems like they have kids, and not a wealthy family. Perhaps, like you can see, there is a stairs go upstairs, probably there are bedrooms there. So they are just larger family living together with the standards of our time. However, this picture is called family in decline. So perhaps if we think about the traditional families, what was going on in 1848, we can understand the reason behind why this image or picture is called families in decline, family in decline. Because until the Industrial Revolution, families lived in a large numbers, like large family members. There were like parents and their children, their spouses, their grandchildren, sometimes aunties and uncles. And the two things were changing. The first, the family units were breaking down to move to cities. The second thing, people start to have less children at that time. So in some sense, we can understand why this image is titled or called Family in Decline. So let's think for a second about who's your family. So when I ask you to tell me who is your family, what are you going to say? Is it biological ties, that mom and dad and brother or and sister? And then if that's yes, so how about half siblings, that same mother, different father, or same father, different mother? Are they also similar or equal family, or they are a little bit less family? If they are family, how about the families become part of your family because of destiny, that you do not choose your stepfather, you do not choose your stepfather. They are in your life because of somebody else's choice. And how about their children, if they come with their own kids to your family, which we call blended families? So are they your family? And is family personal choice? If that's a personal choice, that somebody very strange didn't grow up with you and you met in at the university or at a gym or somewhere by accident can become your partner, your wife or husband. So we kind of increase that understanding of what family is. So we are just choosing strangers to bring or allowing to our family. How about your pets? Do you have a little cat or dog that you love more than anybody else in the world? So, do you consider them as your family? So, if your answers are yes, or friends, how about friends? How about a neighbor that becomes very, very close over the years and you grow up doing things with them as child, right? So how about them? Are they your family? How can we define family? Defining families are very, very hard. How is religion and family interconnected? Why are we studying religion and family in the same lecture? Do you think religion serves as a glue that binds families, or family that uses or promotes religion, that the family promotes religion to have certain kind of moral order in the families? For example, if your parents are Christian or Muslim, they will promote this in the family so children can grow up with those belief systems, so they can also practice that beliefs and values and moral systems bring them together. Their understanding of the world is similar, their understanding of what's happening to their lives is similar, they are in the same page in some sense, right? In your perspective, another question, do you see religion as a source of stability and shared purpose that strengthens family bonds? Or can it be something, sometimes be a source of division or tension among family members? As I mentioned earlier, so if we have similar belief systems, the same God and same beliefs and same prayers, same values, then it's kind of we're interconnected in our families. We just kind of make our we, right? We are believers of this thing and this kind of uniting force. And sometimes, for example, in the cases of somebody in the family bringing a partner from outside, from a different religion, the religion can serve as a force to divide families because their belief system is so unforgiving and strong. They cannot accept a person being from other religion. Therefore, this religion sometimes can play a role of or be a factor for separation and divide. So I have this video in your uh, bright space. I don't know, I'm forgetting the words. Bright space, please watch it. It's not long. It just kind of explains that, you know, family as a social institution a little bit further. Um, So if you were in class also, I would make small groups to work together so you can pick one of the the family structures and explore the advantages and disadvantages of that social institution. What kind of formats or what kind of structures families have? Some of the structures would be like traditional families that mother, father, children, their spouses and grandchildren living together, aunties and uncles sometimes living together. That is a traditional family structure. Then we have nuclear family structure, mother, father, and children. Then we have blended families that mom and dad was separated and then or divorced, then they made another union, so the mom or dad or both of them came with their own children, so there are blended families. And then there is single parent families that mom or a dad lives with children, or there's single person families that somebody did not wanted to get married, therefore they stayed alone. So these family structures, all of them has certain function in society. Anything happens in society, they have a function in society. So when traditional family structures broke down, then it became like a nuclear family structures. Nuclear family wasn't the best kind of family structure, because in nuclear family structure, men needs to work and be successful, and woman needs to stay home and take care of children, the emotional needs of children, and that make the home and cook and clean and do traditional gender roles. Then we saw that not all fathers were successful enough. So therefore, moms need to go to work and work together. That the economy demanded two-income families. Therefore, the children left home without full attention of their parents. So nuclear families went through a lot of stress. Therefore, there was a lot of breakdown in nuclear families. There's separations, especially when no-fault divorce introduced to society. The many families who were living with stress, or maybe women who were staying in marriage because they didn't want it to be get blamed. Actually, in actuality, they were experiencing a lot of domestic abuse or hardships, got divorced. So those separations and divorces created other family structures, that blended family structure, single parent family structures, single person family structures. And in our time, we can see that same-sex marriages are another type of family structure, or we can see polygamy or polyamorous relationships. There's all different kinds of family structures, and these structures have their own functions in society. So in this activity, we usually explore what are some of the disadvantages, unique disadvantages these families experience in societies. For example, single mothers are one of the poorest layer of society, because now they need to bring income to the family and take care of their children, and it's very difficult for sustaining that economic needs of the family. So it would be a great interactive activity if this class was on in person. So let's define and theorize families. What are families? So I'm going to read here. Families are groups of people who are related by genetics, marriage, or choice, and who share material, emotional, and economic resources. And I have to tell you that there is no one definition to a family. There is so many ways to define families, and one definition does not fit all family structure. Therefore, it's very complex. Structural functionalism. If we think about grand theories in sociology, structural functionalism, conflict theory, and symbolic interactionism, they look at families differently. For example, I just mentioned quickly that the structural functionalism views family as economic cooperation, sexual regulation, education, and socialization. It is main part of reproduction, and also the families take care of their children and elderly, and that becomes like a care system, right? The conflict theory views families as the units that reinforce economic and ideological inequalities. The economic being that, there is a Gilman's book, Women in Economics, that paid work and unpaid housework is divided unequally distributed between men and women, for example. Ideological inequality is how men are viewed, how women are viewed, how families in different classes are viewed, and then those create different kinds of power relations. Symbolic interactionism, it talks about the statuses and roles men and women, children, sisters and brothers and grandmas and grandpas have in these institutions. In the social institutions class, I talked about we have certain kind of role and stats in every institution. For example, you are a student at the University of University of the Fraser Valley. When you go there, you're a student. When you go to your home, you are a son or a daughter or a parent. When you go to your work, you are a manager, for example, or you are a security officer, or you are a lawyer, or you are a doctor. So your roles and statuses change as you move in the social institutions. Therefore, we can see that in the families and religion, everybody having their own statuses. Based on that statuses and roles, the wealth is distributed in society. So what's marriage? Marriage, if we want to define it, marriage is a legally recognized relationship, usually involving economic, social, emotional, and sexual bonds. And I have to mention that romance is a new thing. Most marriages were actually arranged marriages before that. In our time, romance became very normalized in society. There is all different kinds of marriages. We talked about nuclear family structure, and that involves men heterosexual relationships, that mom and dad, then they build up their families, they have children. That is kind of like leads to nuclear structure. Also, there are same-sex marriages, polygyny and polyandry marriages, one wife, many or numerous husbands, or one husband, numerous wives. If you look at Statistics Canada, this is Statistics Canada in 2016, you can see we have 14 million families in Canada. 32.3% of them are non-census family households, which is like a one-person households, non-census family households of two or more persons. And then there are census family households. Census family households include couples without children, couples with children, lone parent families, the single moms or single dads, and multi-generational households. This one is traditional the families and other family structures. And between all of those, that one-person households increased in last decades, and then lone parent families increased, and multi-generational households are decreased big time. It's not me doing, it's just moving without my doing anything. So the family structure is changing all the time in Canada and the world. And some of the changing family structures are because of the changing role of women in society. Today, women are pursuing education. They are more independent. They want to have a career. They are economically independent. Therefore, they don't have to, be take it when there's a violence in the family or other sorts of abuse in the family. And there are also changing social attitudes towards family. For example, some people finding family or marriage being meaningless because they think it's just a piece of paper. So therefore, attitudes towards marriage is changing. People are just getting together and living together, and they are never thinking about getting married. And there is also raising insecurity of relationships. There is a lot of divorce and separations in society. Therefore, people lost trust towards it. Changes to social institutions are changing, and increased cohabitation in society. So as long as they are together, living together, that piece of paper may not make a lot of difference. Therefore, structure is changing. And there are some of the questions to explore: how have traditional gender roles within families evolved, and what factors contribute to these changes? What challenges and advances do non-traditional family structures like single-parent family structures, blended families face in contemporary society? How has technology and social media affected communication and relationships within families? How do colonialism impact the family structures and dynamic of Aboriginal people in Canada? How do factors such as race, ethnicity, class, and sexual orientation intersect with family dynamics, and in what ways can an intersectional approach enhance our understanding of diverse family structures? These ones are for you to explore, to get ready for your this week's exam or quiz. Now I will be talking about religion. What is religion? Faith is a belief based on conviction rather than scientific evidence. When we say God, we cannot ask, where is God? Because we have to believe in God without seeing God. We have to believe in all the things religion tells us. We have to take them without questioning them. Therefore, belief based on conviction, not scientific evidence. Religion is a social institution consisting of beliefs and practices based on recognizing the sacred, the extraordinary that transcends everyday experiences. Now, religion is a social construction that we construct religions. Beliefs are that you can believe in God, that's yours, and the religions are organized. That, for example, if I take Christianity or Islam, for example, we have church or mosques, we have religious authorities, we have scriptures, we have symbols, we have body of believers, we have certain things we do that, because of our belief, we try to support and show some we like to keep people united. So this all is organized religion. Forms of religion, the first thing comes to mind is animism, belief that elements of the natural world or conscious life forms, everything that is part of nature contains divine element. That's kind of like a God's world, right? So that, more like traditional spiritual beliefs that there is like a connection to nature, that things happen to nature because it was created in certain way. The mountains created by God, and oceans created by God. They will exist even if we don't exist. There are certain things don't exist, like computers don't exist if we don't exist, but certain things do exist because we didn't create them, God created them. That is the form of understanding of religion and supernatural. And there's polytheism, and polytheism is older sorts of religion. There is belief to many gods. Then there is monotheism, that is belief in a single divine power, like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, or other monotheistic religions. Contemporary trends and variations in religion. Religiosity is the degree of importance of religion in a person's life, that many political systems question the degree of religiosity in their territory, and we can see all kinds of like political institutions trying to organize and reorganize the patterns of belief systems in society. Secularization is the decline in the importance of the supernatural and the sacred association with increased industrialization and post-industrialization. This is not a greatest definition, because secularization theory kind of rejected in many cases. The main argument was that as societies advance, the science and technology advance, people will back from the supernatural. They start to believe in the science more, therefore they are distanced themselves from that supernatural that is called secularization. But our time showed that is not the case. The recent revival of Islam or revival of Christianity, revival of other religions showed that doesn't matter how technologies advance, people will have belief systems. That is part of them. They want to believe in something. Therefore, secularization is a different idea in today's world. Decrease in mainstream denominations, rise in conservative religious organizations, Mormons, Seventh-day Avenues, and sects. And fundamentalism is the belief that conservative religious doctrine, that for Islam it's a 7th century Islamic beliefs, for Christianity that fundamental beliefs, that opposes into intellectualism and worldly accommodation and seeks to restore traditional religion. So these religious movements in some way that kind of trying to reconnect with the original idea. I explore Islamic revivalism myself, and then the whole idea is we went too far from religion. We want to reconnect to the original ideas. We would like to be the Muslims that the God asked or Allah asked us to be, or we want to do the way it came, that we don't want that change. Yet progressive religious ideology tells that our time is changing, our world is changing, our society is changing, therefore we have to adjust ourselves to adjust our religion to advancing world, otherwise we won't be able to practice our religion. So all different kinds of belief systems. So there are different religions: Hinduism, Judaism. These 8 religions are explored in this video over here. I want you to take time to watch this video as well. Who is Ludwig Feuerbach? So I wanted to talk about something, the historical, how religion was viewed and how, the changes happened in society. Basically, Feuerbach was himself religious person, yet criticized religion. He was aligned with the young Hegelian group. There was a young Hegelians, they called, the Karl Marx was part of it. Feuerbach was a part of it. The Karl Marx criticized Feuerbach as he talks like a good Christian but hostile to traditional Christianity. The anthropological sense of all religions. He argues that all aspects of God, as we understand God, are really aspects of humanity. He says that we create God in the image of what we think is the best human. For example, we think that kindness is a great feature of humanity, and then we attribute that to a God, but we say that God is 1,000,000 times kinder, like most kind. And we think that fairness is a good thing, and then we think that God is the most fair entity, and then all this generosity, all these good things we think about humanity, we attribute to God. Therefore, he says that we create God in the image of human, and yet we just make that God greatest. So we create God and then attribute all the good things to God, which called the psychogenetic method. We create God in our own image. The proper object of worship is the unlimited essence of man. Therefore, he's saying that the object of our worship, who we are worshiping, who we are praying, is actually unlimited essence of us, men. We created God in the image of us, but they are the greatest. And then we worship that to be close to that ideal thing. That it's very like very philosophical, yet it is very like logical way of thinking about God, right? So he does that. And then Karl Marx, who's Karl Marx? He created the conflict theory and the historical materialism. So he criticizes Feuerbach, and this is coming from Karl Marx's writing. It's kind of like a little bit complex writing. It reads as the abolition of religion as the illusory happiness of men is a demand for their real happiness. Now he's saying that abolition of religion as the illusory happiness, that it's created by man in the essence of man. So this is Feuerbach's demand for real happiness. So let's see what is real happiness. The call to abandon their illusions about their condition is a call to abandon a condition that requires illusion. So this is very heavy writing. The call to abandon their illusions about the conditions, that at the time religion was used actually for numbing people, saying that you have a predestination, that you're created poor, therefore you will stay poor. You need to serve your master to become loved in your next life. That is the kind of illusion he's saying to cover their condition. So the call to abandon that illusion means we have to abandon that condition. We need to abandon that working for survival, being poor, being that proletariat that sells their labor for survival. So we have to leave that condition, he's saying. The immediate task is to unmask human alienation in its secular form. Now that has been unmasked in sacred form. He's saying that Feuerbach kind of unmasked that human alienation in the secular form. And now we need to, sacred form, now we need to uncover that in a secular form, real life form. The criticism of heaven transforms itself into the criticism of earth. Now you're criticizing religion, and that's what he means when he says heaven. Now we have to criticize the situation of men on the earth. So how they are living their lives, why this condition is bad for them. The criticism of religion into the criticism of law, the criticism of theory, and the criticism of politics. He's telling Feuerbach that you are not strong enough, you are not strict enough, you are criticizing religion, but you're not openly saying that this criticism of religion actually means we need to change the condition on earth. We need that religion to numb these people. So we have to look at both laws and politics and conditions of people and criticize both God and what's happening on earth. That is his response to Feuerbach. So he's saying here, I try to explain that Feuerbach's thesis is too limited. Feuerbach gave an inadequate explanation of why people engage in psychogenesis, the idea that religious beliefs are not a result of recognition of an external reality, but rather arises from the inward patterns of thought. It emerges from the mind. He says that his thesis is too vague. Feuerbach's language is too religious. Although he's criticizing religious, Marx criticizing him being too religious. Yeah. So, and it's too kind. He's too religious, too kind, too sentimental. He needs to use the words of labor, not love. Just you don't talk about love. Talk about labor and conditions, says Marx. So yeah, he's criticizing Feuerbach. So Karl Marx, the dynamic of self-efficiency of men in nature, means of production, control of wealth, superstructure. He is just kind of tangling himself with the ideas of means of production. What is means of production? That is the, machinery and tools and the manufacturing companies that the wealthy people have to control wealth, and then the enslave this rest of the society to become richer. The rest of the society is working for their survival, therefore they can't do nothing. So the Karl Marx is here encouraging revolution, that fighting against religion and their condition. So he is talking about the economics, talking about social, political, and religious beliefs that as they are being not right at that time, we have to do something. He's just full of ideas. And then I talked about Max Weber. Main arguments were the transition from traditionalism to modernity began with the Protestant Reformation. He talked about how we created capitalism. It transformed a communal trajectory and into individualistic capitalistic society. That capitalistic society, Weber criticizes as being that focusing only on profit and efficiency, not value, not people having more equal and valued life in society. There is like an inequality in society because of these capitalist belief systems. If you look at religions, they change it over time. And if we look at Christianity, like we can think of reformations, that Martin Luther was one of the reformers of religion. He basically rejected indulgences. At that time, the religion became corrupted, that people was giving money to church to buy off their wrongdoings. So he criticized that and said,
I give you, as a present, a book. Here you go. This is yours. And I will just ask you to leaf through it and find a word that has some meaning for you.
All right, I got it.
Can you tell me what the word is?
Representation.
Please write the word down, representation, and just stick that sticky note somewhere in that page. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
All right. We'll come back to that later. But for now,
my apologies. All of a sudden, video started to play in the background. I didn't know how to quit it. So then, so the Martin Luther was one of the reformists and rejected indulgences. At that time, it was about predestination, and then there's a Calvinism being another reformist ideology that predestination was redefined. Relentless disciplines, labor, introduction of capitalist systems. Because of this predestination, the criticism is because of this predestination, people were forced to be quiet, have no voice, and work day and night to please their gods. And therefore, these people start to reform religion. So you can see that religions can be reformed, religions can be redone. We constructed religion, therefore we can change them. And in some sense, it's kind of like a freeing. So asceticism, that is another kind of religious view. It's a discipline, seeking holiness, and is distracted from being attentive to God. So in a way that many religions kind of tries to connect the people, spiritual connection between the individual and their God. There's many things in our society distracts us from what we believe. We are constantly, that bombarded with all these advertisings and TVs and cars and all of this stuff. And this is the disciplined time, so you can disconnect from the worldly stuff and then reconnect with your spiritual beliefs, that it kind of like a self-denial and sensual pleasures. So the last thing I wanted to talk is the contemporary trends and variations in religion. Spirituality in a new age, seekers believe in the higher power, existence of spiritual world, and interconnectedness, pursuing transcendence. And I already talked about the free few theorists, how they view religion, and I don't think I have to repeat those. So this is short lecture on families and religion. If you have any questions, please send me an email. I will see you or talk to you in our next videos. Have a great day.